What do you think the biggest difference, or one of the most important differences, is between what the world teaches and what the gospel teaches about sexuality?
Oh boy, that's
I know there are many.
there are many.
I don't want to open up the can of worms.
Let me maybe give us a starting point and go back to some of what Elder Holland has emphasized, and he talks about and has used the term of sexual fragmentation, right? And as Latter-day Saints, we should particularly appreciate this doctrine and this principle, because it is a separation of the body and the spirit. So what the world primarily emphasizes is an approach to sexuality that emphasizes just the body. It's just a physical experience, even to where we see so much immodesty, so much just the display of the body as an object, what we sometimes call objectification and this fragmentation. The other problem, though, is sometimes we try to correct that in church settings, and we create a different type of fragmentation. And we go over and we still fragment, but we go just the spirit. And so we get this idea that somehow the body is the natural man or the natural woman, and the spirit has to put aside the body and has to kind of overcome the body to be a truly spiritual person. When that gets tied to sexuality, then it's this idea that somehow to be a disciple, it's this sex or salvation type of idea. It's not sex and salvation. The true doctrine is the unity of the spirit and the body. So the dominant message that so many of our young people get from the world around them is this physical fragmentation. It's just the body, doesn't matter, and that's where things of casual sexual relationships, sex before marriage, these types of things then become much more acceptable because it's just the body, just for enjoyment, just for pleasure, right? But we can also get into some of these other stumbling blocks where we go into the spiritual fragmentation. So it's really to find that ability to unify. And that's where we then help our young people find this balance that we can warn about pornography and these inappropriate forms of sexuality, but we want to be careful that that message doesn't overwhelm them with, oh, all sexuality then is bad. All sexuality is destructive. Oh, my attraction to pornography means I'm a bad or wrong person, rather than understanding, no. Your sexual interest, your response to those sexual cues, that's very understandable. It's part of who you are. It's a great counterfeit. Right? Pornography is that grand counterfeit. And so it's a balance of those to where we don't go to either of those extremes, that then they can understand the importance of that unifying of the body and the spirit.
One thing that I will do when I'm teaching on this myself and also in my own home, and I encourage parents to do this too, is to do a compare and contrast table. And it may seem a little dry, but it's just, especially with young adults or teenagers, it works so well because they tend to be more concrete and black and white in their thinking. And so we will do 2 columns, and in one column we'll describe adjectives or descriptors for healthy sexuality within a gospel context, and then what the world teaches about sexuality. And we'll compare and contrast things like, one, in the gospel we are taught that this is private and sacred. In the world, this can often be publicly displayed and not treated as sacred. It's quite profane, actually. In one, the body is treated as a temple,